Goods and Services Tax, better known as GST. Okay, now the reason why I asked when you were born is because the Goods and Services Tax came into effect in Australia, surprise, surprise,
2000.
in the year 2000.
By John Howard.
Yeah, I remember it, okay? Now, the GST is baked into all the commercial goods and services that you buy, okay? You don't have to worry about calculating it, okay? So that for me begs the reason, why do we care? Like, what reason do we have to actually study if it's also sort of done for it? And I've got at least 3 reasons for you, okay? So I'm going to give them to you in this order. These, by the way, they're not the reasons, but hopefully they'll give you enough mental hooks so you'll be like, why are we doing this again? Okay, this is enough. As I just mentioned, in Australia, the GST is baked into the price of whatever you buy. Okay.
Unlike in America, where you like add it on the price tag.
Unlike in many other countries, where this is not the case, and when you have a look at the price tag, you have to mentally add on, okay, what's the sales tax that's going to be included with this purchase? And you sort of have to make sure that you do that as you go, otherwise you get to the checkout, or the till as they would call it, and then you don't have enough money, okay? And the most notable example is the US. Part of the reason why, by the way, is because in the US they've got, all these different states and they have different rules. All of their sales taxes are all different, okay? So in the US, if you go traveling anywhere where they don't actually say it and it's not included, you have to think about it, okay? Alright, so there's reason number 1, you might need to travel. Reason number 2, purchases that you make, both now and in the future, they include GST sometimes in unusual ways. So I'll give you an example. You guys went on, well actually not you guys went, every time you guys have gone on a camp as part of school, right? You have to fork over this large sum of money to be able to go on camp, yes? Now, let me ask you this, do you think you pay GST on that?
Probably not because it's government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
Huh.
Do you pay
Now,
GST on like the lump sum?
Interestingly, this purchase that you've made, right? Camp, that's the purchase. Some of it you had to pay GST on, and some of it you didn't. It's a bit weird. And a lot of this is kind of worked out without you having to worry about it. But eventually, the chances are, either indirectly or directly, all of you are going to have your hands on some purchases, either if it's your business or your home, all those kinds of things. And you need to understand, for example, for you guys, you did not have to pay GST for the camp itself, for the accommodation and for the whatever the people who are actually running your activities and what have you. But you did have to pay GST on the food. Now, the reason why is somewhat long and circuitous, and economics students can explain it in a little more detail if you like. The simplest thing is you guys don't have to pay GST for anything that is what we call curriculum based. So it's like if you're learning something, get a textbook, do a business competition, go on an excursion, all those kinds of things. You don't have to pay GST for that. The school will pay it on your behalf. But food is not a curriculum need, right? That's like a
What if you do food?
physical body need. Oh, okay. Now, if it's food tech, then it's curriculum, right? So then it suddenly changes. So all that just to say, these purchases that get made either on your behalf or by you, they involve GST in sometimes non-trivial ways, okay? Now, the last thing I want to add on as a reason is, how many of you have been in an airport recently at all? Yeah, okay. Now, if you guys have been in an airport, you know that airports have special kinds of stores. Does anyone know what they're called?
Duty-free.
They're called duty-free. Now, what does that mean?
It doesn't have any GST on it? Or
Okay,
tax or
so a lot of taxes, which are sort of, remember I said, baked into the costs of things that you buy, they've been taken off when you're at the airport, okay? Now, and there are actually a few other places where you can do this. Now, just think for a moment. We thought about this last week, about what taxes are about, like what's their purpose. Can you tell me, why are they called duty-free and not tax-free, even though tax-free is what they are?
It's
It's called duty.
Very good. Like, tax is not just like how the government just wants to, pull money off you just for the sake of it, right? Tax is an embodiment of your financial duty to your country. It's like, look, you make money, you spend money, you owe that to the government so that they can do, for example, put in place the regulatory bodies that make sure that all of these businesses you're buying from aren't like ripping you off. Okay? Simple example. So therefore, you have a duty to do this. But if you're a traveller, you don't even belong to this country, you have no duty to pay the taxes of this country. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. So that's just a simple explanation of why these kinds of things exist, and GST is a part of it. Okay.
The airports are still really expensive.
Oh yes, they'll charge you in other ways. Okay. Now therefore,
I get like a Krispy Kreme.
with these as our reasons, there are four skills you need to have to be able to understand and work with GST. Okay. So the first one is you've got to know two different ways to find GST, and that's on the basis of whether you might need to draw this with me. You are considering the original price of the item that you're buying. In fact, I'm going to label this as original. Or if you're talking about the total price, which includes the GST that gets added onto the side here. Okay. Now this diagram is actually going to be, it's not just to look pretty. It's actually important for us as we work out the numbers here, because GST in our country is what proportion of the original price? 10%. Very good. So with your original here, can you do your best and divide it up into, try as well, divide it up into 10 equal portions. Okay, so it looks something, I guess, like this. There we go. That looks right. There we go. Okay, they're roughly close enough. Okay, so you've got your original price, and the language here is really important. You've got the original price, then you've got the GST, which is a tenth or 10%, and then you've got what you would call, I suppose, that has less ink than I thought. Then you've got the total. Okay, the total amount.